Hello fantastic people! Today we'll implement this simple combat system where our character is able to attack not only to the sides but also up and down. Yay! So let's start by going through the setup of the character, as this is probably the most important thing, of course beside the scripts. So first of all I have the empty object called character, which holds all different objects related to my character, and that includes everything: sprites, so like legs for the animation and so on, so I can animate them separately, and then also stuff related to platform movement, so for example the ground check. The thing that handles the attacking is the player melee script, which in normal conditions could be a script directly in the player controller or something like that. It really depends on your design, but keeping it this way just, I think, makes the tutorial a little bit cleaner, because it doesn't clash with the movement script and anything like that. So we literally will be starting with a plain script there. So, or rather, you will see only the stuff related to melee combat rather than it mixed inside the other functionalities. So now, yes. In terms of the character itself, you see we have two unusual things here. So we have the hands, which is empty object that is holding the sword. The sword is here, it's just hidden by default, because when we walk at the beginning, we don't want the sword to be visible. I want to show it only during the attack. Then I have head inside of head wrapper. So let me explain you why I'm doing that. Let's enable the sword sprite for a second, and let's have a look at its animation. So the important thing here is that the animator that animates the sword is actually on the hands. So it is not on the sword itself, but on the hands. And in a second you will see why. So basically what's happening here, you see I have this simple animation. As you see here, I enable and disable the sprite renderer, so obviously that makes the sword be hidden after the animation finishes and makes it appear at the beginning of the animation, and nothing besides the rotation. So this is literally all that was needed for the simple attack. But now, because we want the sword to attack different directions when we look up or down, we have to have the wrapper object. If we would try to adjust the sword rotation, you see it would be pretty difficult, because it is at this point handled by animator, so we would have some unexpected behavior. I believe that the animator is taking priority over the script. I don't take it for granted, but what I mean by that, basically, the animation would still work, but the script wouldn't. So if I cannot animate the sword, I had to think about a smart way to rotate the sword without affecting the animation. And as you see, as the sword is moving down, the rotation of the hands stays untouched. So for example, if I now rotate it -90, you see I'm starting to attack to the bottom. If I move the sword a little bit down, then I have a beautiful attack to the bottom. I can do exactly the same thing the other direction, so I do 90 degrees rotation and then move the sword up, and I have a beautiful attack to the top. So this is the main reason, not main, but the only reason I'm having the wrapper objects there. And now you may be wondering why I do have that thingy set up also on the head. That's very simple, exactly the same reason. So I have the character animation, let me open it. Beautiful, we have the idle. So you see the idle moves the head, and if I would like to move the head, you see this would be pretty difficult, because the rotation is handled. So if I would like to look up or down, now you see I can do that. Pretty simple. So now from the important things in the setup, I think regarding the character that's all. No, there is one more thing. So basically on the sword, you see I have a collider, circle collider to the, and because it's attached to the end of the sword, when the sword rotates, the collider moves together with it. And because I don't want any collisions to occur, in the sense that I don't want two objects to stop when they touch or anything like that, I turned on the isCollider checkbox, and that makes sure that it's treated as a trigger, not as a regular collider. Let me quickly go through all of the objects here, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. No, that's all when it comes to the character itself. Now, the other important bit is the mannequin, which is just a default, let's say, enemy. Here it is much simpler than the character itself. So what we have here? Here we have just a regular wrapper object, so exactly the same situation. We have the base, which is just small item at the bottom. Then we have a frame, which is like a spine of the enemy. And then you see it only has the sprite renderer. Then we have, where's the collider? Okay, the collider is on the mannequin itself. But this really doesn't matter that much. It's just important that you have this collider, because this is what will detect the hit. And as you see also here, because I don't want the character to stop when it collides with the enemy, I also turned it to trigger. So it works like that, as easy and as beautiful as that. So now, as you see, head, nothing special, separated just for the animation purpose. Exactly the same thing about the body, exactly the same thing about the frame and the base as well. So the other piece that is important here, beside the rigid body and box collider 2D, they have to be together, because that is what makes them basically use the physics collision system. But then also, just to let you know, if you don't want the enemy to move, like in my case, I changed the body type to kinematic, and this way it is not affected by gravity or anything like that. So this is it. And of course then we have a simple enemy script, which we'll go through in a second. So when it comes to the setup, that's really it. Now let's have a look at the code. Just to let you know, in case you get lost at any point, you can find the script in the description of the video, so I will put it on GitHub, and if you don't want to watch this video, you can just copy paste the script, and I won't hate you for that. I mean, I will, but just a little bit. So yes, if you want the script, it is there. Now let's have a look at how it is implemented. So the most important thing over here, let's wait a second. Yes, now it's updated, beautiful. So the most important thing here is the update method. So there are several things going on. You see I have some variables set up. We'll see how they connect to the methods I'm executing here in a second. So first thing I do inside the update is to capture the input. This is pretty simple. It just checks if we press the up or down button, and then obviously we also check if we are attacking or not. Nothing fancy there. So as you see, I have two variables set up for that. They are over here. This way I don't have to check it in multiple places, so it is in theory a little bit quicker, a little bit less performance intensive than using the input class in every place. But even if you do, there is not much performance overhead or nothing like that. Now, first thing that is critical to our solution is rotating head. So how it is implemented? Yes, so this is a little bit tricky thing, but first of all, we want to see, we want to calculate the exact rotation of the head. So we don't want to change any rotation of the head in the x-axis, we don't want to change it in y-axis, we want to change it in the z-axis. And now what is happening, the vertical input, depending on what we press or we don't, will be 1, 0 or -1. Then it will be multiplied by the arbitrary number 17, which is literally just the amount of degrees I want to rotate the head. This probably should be variable, not even probably, but this should be variable, and I'm terrible because I didn't do that, so sorry. Whew. And then what we do, we multiply that by the character's local scale, and this is important because if we don't do that, or maybe let me show, this is very nice thing actually to see what is happening if we don't have that, and we let me run it quickly. Yes, so now when we look up and down in this direction, so I have to tell you what I'm doing. So now I'm pressing the up key, I'm looking up, I'm pressing the down key, I'm looking down. Perfecto. Then I turn the other side, and now I'm pressing the up key, oops, and then the down key. So in order, basically what is happening, the scale is -1, so everything is rotated like 180 degrees. So we have to take that into consideration when we calculate the rotation. I hope that it is clear. So this is the reason why we have that here. So what is happening here, we assign the rotation to the head wrapper, but we don't do it directly. If we could, of course, just assign the target rotation, and this would make it just look up or down without this nice smooth transition. So basically this, the thing that is happening here is lerping from basically the current rotation to the target rotation, and we do it so basically there is a how lerp works is basically you give it 2 vectors, and then you give it a number between 0 and 1, and it basically tries to find a spot. So for example, if you put 0.5, then it will be a vector. So the result of the method will be a vector exactly in between those 2 vectors. If you give it 1, then it will be the target vector, so this one. And if you give it 0, then it will be the starting vector. Now, what is happening here? This is pretty interesting. So every time the update method is called, right? We call the RotateHead, and every single time, by a certain factor, we get closer to the target rotation. So every single frame, the head wrapper rotation is a little bit closer to the target. In fact, that means we are never going to get exactly to the target, because the time delta, time times something, at least in theory, depending on what you put here, will never be 1. So basically you will get closer, and then the movement will be so small that you will not see it. The reason I gave it 5 here, again, it should be variable, is because I wanted the head movement to be a little bit more dynamic. So in my case, oh no, don't tell me I'm not recording. Oh, I am. Jesus, that was stressful. Yes. So sorry. Yes. So you see the movement is pretty simple. It's very small, very slow, very nice. If I would get rid of the ×5, it would be even slower, but slower to the extent of being unbearable. Just let's have a look. You see? Yay! So many emotions, so beautiful. Yeah, so that's the reason there's this ×5. Okie dokie. So this is what the, well, let me fix that. This is what the RotateHead does. And now, there is a lot of magic happening in the adjust hands position and rotation. This is a simple method that does exactly what I showed you when looking at the animation and why we have the empty object wrappers around the head and sword. So you see I have the hands, which is the reference. This is actually quite important. So you see I actually have the references to the hands, head wrapper, and the character. So this, as you've seen below, is used just to use the local scale X. So I know if I should be, which direction to rotate the head. Then we have head wrapper, so we can move it up and down. That's the reason we have it here. And the hands is used for the attacking up and down, and obviously to the sides, because it allows us to basically adjust the rotation and position of this object to have nice attacking where we need. Yes, then we have the hands position. This will be important in a second. Basically what is happening, we store here the, as you see in the start method, the starting position. So when we look up and move the sword up, we know where to get back to. So this is the reason we store this hands position. Then we have the hands animator, because obviously we want to trigger the smashing animation. And then we have a simple is attacking variable to control some stuff which you will see in a second. And the inputs, you already have seen why we have them here. So let's get back to our adjust hands position and rotation. Let's start from the other side. So first, let's have a look at the position. This is as simple as adding or removing 1, because vertical input will be 1, 0 on, or minus 1, 0 or 1. So basically this is what we add to the hands position in the y-axis. So we either stay on the same level if we don't press any button, we move up if we press the up key, and we move down if we press the down key, as simple as that. Then we have the rotation, and how we handle that. We just assign a new vector with 0 rotation in X and Y, and this is exactly the part that I was showing when I typed -90 and 90. This is literally what is happening, just calculated based on the input, and then the local scale, exactly for the same reason as previously, because when we have a scale -1, we have to adjust which way we rotate the sword. That's really it. Okay, so this is how the adjust hands position and rotation works. And then we have the handle attacking, which is pretty simple. This is actually the method that is triggering the attack. So let's scroll down to it. And here again, let's start from the bottom. First of all, I'm checking if the button attack button is down and if we are not attacking, because obviously we don't want to start attacking in the middle of attack. As simple as that. Then, first thing we do, we set active the object, the hands object. So basically we could stay with just turning on and off the sprite renderer of the sword. But sometimes there might be some extra stuff that is happening, and when the object is invisible, nothing is happening. The scripts are not executed and so on. So this is, I just wanted to add it. It will work perfectly fine without this one, but this is like a extra precaution to make sure that no unnecessary stuff is executed. So that's the reason I'm activating and deactivating the object. So first, I activate the object to make sure it is visible and everything is executed as expected. Then I set the trigger on the hands animator called attack. Now let's have a look at the animators. So here we have the hands animator. Over here I have a simple idle, which has, and this is very important, this will be really relevant in a second. So you see there is no motion over here, and motion is the actual animation. So here you see I have no motion whatsoever. And then when we set the trigger attack, basically we transition to attack, and after, let's open it. So after one full round of the animation, without any transition duration, we just go back to the sword idle. As simple as that. So nothing more happening here. So that means in order to trigger the animation, we have to trigger attack. Now, because I want to reference this variable over here, I'm setting the is attacking to true. Now, when the attack stops, we have to turn the is attacking to false and deactivate the hands. But how do we check if the attack is no longer happening? So we have two pieces of information. First one, we know that the attack was happening because we have the is attacking variable, and then the second one is the information about current clip. So this is when I said that this part will become important, this is what is happening. So basically, if I get the current animator clip information on the layer index 0, I get the amount of animations there. So in this current clip, there is no animations, so it is equal to 0. That means we are back in the idle state and we were attacking before. Beautiful. We can stop attacking and we can deactivate the hands. So we actually here already covered everything in the update method, right? So this is literally everything that is needed to make the character attack. So everything over here. The reason you've seen this sort at the beginning was because, of course, I forgot to turn off the sprite renderer. So yes, here you see everything is working as expected. That is what is happening in that script. But now somehow we have to make the other character to react to our attack. And this is what we'll look at now. So first, as you see, I have this private void on trigger enter to the method on the and this is important, this is still on the player melee script, right? So the reason this method is called, it's because on one of the children objects, so over here on the sort, as we discussed before, I have this collider which is set as a trigger. So basically that is the reason the on trigger enter to the method is called. Then when it is happening, what we do, we actually hit the enemy, and this is our another method inside the player melee script. So first what we do, we check if we are attacking. If we are not attacking, we don't do anything. That is important because obviously our character is moving with the sword, right? So this is, for example, the reason I deactivate. This check is irrelevant in my case because the sword is deactivated. But if it would be active and we would walk, this would also attack the enemy if the sword would touch the enemy. But if we do that, then if we are not attacking, so if the animation is not happening, if the sword touches the enemy, nothing will happen. So this is the first thing. Then we check if the collider that was detected by our trigger is actually enemy, and we do it by getting enemy specific script. So in general, it doesn't have to be enemy script. So this could be any script that you are sure is on the enemy object. And also, of course, this is my preferred way, but you don't have to do it this way. You can check the tag on the enemy, you can check layer, many things. So there are tens, maybe not tens, but there are at least several ways to handle that. So what I'm doing, whoops, one of the lights died. Nope, both of the lights died. Yes, so now I'm even more ugly. Life. Okay, so we check if the object that we hit is enemy. If it is enemy, so if we actually manage to get the script, we call the hit script on the enemy. Now, this is really the only thing that is part of the enemy script. So as you remember, on the character we have the player melee script, and then on the enemy, on the mannequin, we have the enemy script. This is a pretty simple script. So what is happening here? On awake, it could be start as well. I'm grabbing the animator and collider from that particular enemy, and then you see this is very important. This method is public. The reason it is public is because I want to call it from outside the script. So I have public void hit method, which first sets trigger hit. which is obviously just a trigger for the animation. So this is what does this nice hit animation. Then we have a collider, which we disable, because if, for example, we don't want a situation that, for example, our character moves. In this situation, it's pretty simple because the character is static. But imagine, you know, moving quickly an enemy and stuff, and, you know, crazy animations and so on. And your collider, you attack once, and, you know, your sword is doing this motion, and the enemy somehow moves, and you enter its collider twice. Then it would be attacked twice, but you don't want that. You want the character to be attacked only once when you perform one attack. So this way, if we disable collider, obviously it will not be detected, so the double hit won't occur. But now, after a certain time, we want the collider to be re-enabled. And this is what is happening in this line. So I'm starting a simple coroutine. I will make a video about coroutines pretty soon, so don't worry if you don't know what is happening. But basically, coroutine is a method that will happen asynchronously. So basically, it doesn't interrupt the flow of the code, any other stuff happening, and after certain conditions. Let's simplify it this way. After certain conditions, basically the code in this special method will be executed, and this special method has to return an enumerator. That is how you define the coroutine. So the coroutine has to return an enumerator, and then it can yield something. In this case, I'm yielding the return new wait for seconds and providing the immunity script, immunity time variable. So what is happening here? I'm telling the script to do other stuff for this time specified here, in my case half a second, and when this time passes, then do the next line, which is re-enabling the collider. And this is really it. So basically, just quickly to go through it once again, when the hit is called, we grab the we trigger the animation, we disable collider so the double hit doesn't occur, and then we start the coroutine, which after half a second re-enables the collider. As simple as that. And this is really it. So those are all the parts that were needed for creating this simple combat system. Beautiful. Have a fantastic day. Love you and bye bye.